Hey everyone, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in to a review of some new brushes from Real Techniques. These are the Foundation Blender brush and the Face and Body Blender brush. I recently posted a video, I guess not too recently, but like a month ago-ish, a full rundown of Real Techniques brushes. The brushes that I like, what I recommend, and then more specifically, the way they bundle some of these brushes. You can buy some individually and some not. So I also talk about how I'd recommend like purchasing them if you're a first-time purchaser. Sure enough though, the second I uploaded that, I'm pretty sure these launched. And so here we are again with another Real Techniques review, but I do have that video up for reference if you're interested. So first let's start with the Foundation Blender, which is the smaller one of the two new brushes. And while we're talking about how you should purchase these products, this is actually a good example. So I bought the Foundation Blender from Ulta's website for $12.99 individually. However, and I don't know how I missed this, but there's actually a set called the Blending Gems set where you not only get this brush, but you also get a smaller, rounder version that's better for buffing product into smaller areas across the face, like blush, contour, things like that, as well as two brush cleaners, or like two packets of cleaners. I don't know if they're the same or different, but basically you get all of that in one package that comes for $12.49. And I paid $12.99 for the brush alone. So hot tip, if you, after watching this video, are still interested in getting this brush, highly recommend you check that set out because you get so much more bang for your buck. So that's that. Let's now talk more about this brush. So as you can see, it is smaller. It's like a small kabuki brush with this tiny little handle, and it's super densely packed. As a point of reference, I've also pulled out a few of my other Real Techniques brushes. I would say it's most similar in density to the Expert Face brush here, which you can see is quite a bit smaller, but still pretty dense. And then by comparison, something a little bit less dense is the buffing brush, which is my absolute go-to everyday foundation brush. And I actually prefer the buffing brush over the Expert Face just because it is a little bit less dense. I find it's better at buffing in without leaving any sort of streak. You can still build up the pigmentation without having to work as hard for it, whereas for some reason the Expert Face brush for me just is a little bit streakier for whatever reason. Even though it's dense, it buffs in very nicely, but takes me longer. I mean, probably because there's just less surface area there, and is a little bit streaky for whatever reason. So I did have that fear going into trying this Foundation Blender brush, but one of the tips that they gave in the how-to video when I was first reading up on this before I bought it is that you can go and buff it in, which I do, and you'll see in the demo. Go and buff it in, which gives you a good but somewhat sheer coverage. And the foundation that I'm wearing in the demo and today for reference is the IT Confidence in a Foundation. So what is supposed to be a pretty full coverage foundation, and you can see that not only does it get absorbed by the brush, but the way it buffs and blends out, it's just not quite as full coverage. Like I had to go in with quite a bit of product of this foundation to get the level of coverage that I would have otherwise gotten from something like my buffing, nope, that's this buffing brush. That said, when I went to go blend in my concealer, I used the trick to pat it in. So I did a combination of buffing and patting on my chin to build up that coverage, but when it came to my under eye area, I was actually pleasantly surprised by how fast and evenly it blended that concealer out. And I really think it has everything to do with the shape of this brush, how it's that oval shape. It not only helps you blend out broad areas of your face, but it also gets into the more narrow spaces, like your concealer or down the center of your nose, or even in your hairline right here, because I will say I have had a love-hate relationship with massive kabuki brushes like this. This one is from Pure. It's their powder foundation. Powder? Yes, powder foundation brush, but I use it with liquid powder everything. IT Cosmetics used to have a similar one, but basically it is just a massive, massive brush that gets the job done by blending things in super flawlessly and quickly. But I would always stop using it because I'd be so sick of having a ton of product up here in my temples, because when I'd go blend it in here, it would just be a ton of product in my hair and in my brows, and like it just wasn't very precise. So I would opt for the buffing brush, but I feel like this brush from Real Techniques kind of solves both of those problems for me, you know? It blends things in quickly, pat it in for the additional coverage, and then that shape really helps you get a more precise application across the rest of your face. I really love it for all of those reasons. The one thing that was a little bit harder to get used to was the size of this handle. I thought I'd really like it. It'd be nice and compact, certainly great for travel, but I did notice that it was kind of hard. My hand cramped. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing that will happen to people for whatever reason. Maybe I'm low in potassium. I don't know, but it is something that I noticed with this brush. It was just slightly different when it came to really getting in there and buffing, especially when I had to go and apply a ton of extra foundation that I wasn't expecting. I did notice that my hand just got a little bit tired, but I'm sure that fatigue would go away once you get used to actually using the brush long term. But really, that's my only complaint about this brush, and it's not really that much of a complaint. Like, it certainly isn't going to stop me from using it. So overall, I think if you like a nice dense brush to blend things in and you're looking for something a little bit bigger that can get the job done faster, I really like this because it gives you that size but still gives you that ability to be more precise in the areas you want to be. Just remember though, if you do pick this up, go for the kit. And let me know how that cheek blender brush is, because now I'm super bummed I missed out on it. Okay, now let's talk about the face and body blender brush, which, just again for size reference, I would say it's about double the size in terms of the amount of bristles it looks like you have. Density feels identical, it's just double the size, and again has that same sort of grip down here at the bottom, but it's a little bit easier to get used to, I think, just because it's slightly bigger. So to be totally honest, this I use less frequently in my daily beauty routine because it is better fitted for body application, although I think they do demo this on the face as like a bronzer. Like, it can totally be used on the face, but because it's so big, I prefer this on the body and the foundation brush for the face. So because I don't wear a lot of body makeup, this gets less use, but I just need to take this and all the other brushes I have, like I'm going to talk about soon here, down into my bathroom where I apply my lotions and my self tanners and my things like that, because that's really what these are good for, especially because they have synthetic bristles. So you don't have to worry about anything, liquids, penetrating these, ruining them, making them hard to clean or whatever. These are fantastic for body bronzers, illuminators, things like that. That said, in comparison to the other kind of larger Real Techniques body brushes that I have, which is quite a few at this point, I don't know that this one is any more special or serves any special use compared to those other ones, right? So it has that oval shape, which I really appreciated for precision on my face, but I can't think of a time where I'd want to really be precise about applying product to my body. And so in that way, I think either of these other two that I also have, if you have them. And so I think because of that, I don't know that this does anything different that the other brushes that I have don't also do. This one, it doesn't have, this is from the like Outer Space or Galactic collection. It's the brush number 306, and this has a similar kind of handle to it, is round as opposed to oval or oblong like this one. So it's just really good for, well, not your face, but across the rest of your body, buffing and blending in there. And then I also have the powder blue one that is the B05, and this is the least dense of all of them, although it does have a lot of bristles as compared to, this one or even this one. I would say the powder blue is least dense, and then it goes into this galactic guy before getting into this one. So if you do care about density, that might be how you make your decision here, but in terms of practicality and how these function as body brushes, I would say it's all the same. So make your choice according to price if that's what makes sense to you, density if that's what makes sense to you. But if you have either of these two or any other body brush for that matter, I don't necessarily know that you need this one, because to me they do all the same thing unless you have a need for more precision across your body. And those are my thoughts on these brushes. I hope it was really helpful if you were considering purchasing any of these yourself. If I left anything out or you just have more questions, feel free to let me know down in the comments below and I'll try and answer them. Besides that, guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.